Assalamualaikum. My name is Nur Fatihah Awang and today I will share about rural development. I will start first, then my group members Nik Nur Fatihah and Raha Hamizah will continue. First, let's see the video.
More than 50% of the world's population live currently in urban areas, and this number is expected to rise to 70% by 2050. This will cause enormous challenges for conventional food production and supply, and contribute to the divide between rural and urban areas. Cities and surrounding areas face many challenges, such as food and nutrition insecurity. Both rural and urban residents often lack access to sufficient, nutritious, safe and affordable food suitable to their diets and local culture. Social and economic inequality. Smallholder farmers often lack access to urban markets, and in some areas, people simply cannot access or afford food and basic services.
So, what is rural development? In general, a rural area or countryside is a geographic area that is located outside towns and cities. So, whatever is not urban is considered rural. Typical rural areas have a low population density and small settlements. Agriculture areas are commonly rural, as are other types of areas such as forests. Next, the development is a process that creates growth, progress, positive change, or the addition of physical, economic, environmental, social, and demographic components. The identification of these traits enables relating to political, economic, and social conditions in a country in an attempt to advance development. So, what is rural development? Rural development is known as a strategy designed to improve the economic and social life of rural communities living outside the urbanized areas. Thus, the social or economic activities or initiatives designed to improve the standard of living in areas far away from large towns or cities. In other words, rural development is the process of improving the quality of life and economic well-being of people living in rural areas. Rural development also has traditionally centered on the exploitation of land-intensive natural resources such as agriculture and forestry.
Under the Malaysian Federal Government, Ministry of Rural Development, or in short KPLB, is responsible for the development of rural areas in Malaysia, with Datuk Dr. Haji Abdul Latif Ahmad being the current Minister of KPLB. There are two Deputy Ministers, which are Datuk Sri Abdul Rahman bin Mohamad and Datuk Henry Sumagong. KPLB plan and implement socio-economic programs for the development of rural community, which includes training for staff and communities. Another important function is to structure and improve quality of financial and administration services for the benefit of rural community. With the vision to be the leader of rural progress, KPLB had implemented numerous rural development programs since their establishment in 1959. Their mission is to improve the well-being of the rural community as a whole and effectively, and Luar Bandar Sejahtera as their motto.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is Raha Hamizah and I will continue on the related government agencies. Ministry of Rural Development has a total of 10 agencies, but for now, I will focus on the major four. Firstly is MARA. MARA was established under Bumiputera Economic Congress 1965. Their main objective are to enhance the equity holding of Bumiputera from the aspect of entrepreneurship, education, and investment. Next is CHAKOWA. It is formed for the development of indigenous people. This is to increase their socio-economic and quality of life standard. Thirdly is RISDA. RISDA helps smallholders by planning and implement reforms for the agriculture industries. It was first focused on the rubber estate, but nowadays, RISDA helps smallholders to replace their rubber to palm oil plantation. Lastly is FRECA Berhad. FRECA use permitted idle lands as palm oil plantation. This is to create opportunities and raise agriculture output.
The first issue in rural development that we are really concerned about is the poor internet connection affecting online learning or online business in the rural areas. This problem is the slow internet access that happens in rural areas in Malaysia. We know that the internet is very important as it is a current necessity for us. Besides being a current necessity, the internet facilities are urgently needed in the new norms in the wake of COVID-19 outbreak, in which many activities such as education and marketing are being conducted online. In urban areas, the internet is not a problem. However, providing internet access for rural areas is a different story. There are challenges that need to face, such as physical barriers. In rural areas, physical barriers become a problem when there is an unreliable internet connection. Hills and mountains are the example of the physical areas. Next challenge is the increasing demand for telework and telehealth because rural areas continue to lack in internet quality. Beyond work requirements, rural areas have limited access to telehealth facilities. Providing health advice online is challenging. Without a high-quality video link, this challenge becomes even worse. Last is the limited company growth and resources. This challenge may be more difficult to notice. Smaller internet service companies in rural areas really struggle to build out more infrastructure. They do not have the option to spread out their network that is very costly. Furthermore, some rural internet service providers will not be able to borrow funds from the financial markets at low rates like national telecom carriers. To compare with other countries, for example in South Korea, their internet is one of the fastest internet broadband in the world. The internet would be available at 5 and 10 Gbps. It is fast and reliable. There are so many ways to get internet access in South Korea. They offer free blazing fast with Wi-Fi internet access. So, the existing solution that we have is the Rural Development Ministry is upgrading internet access in rural areas. The efforts involve the Malaysian Communication and Multimedia Commission (MCMC) and the ministry also met Telekom Malaysia Berhad and several other providers which are communication companies to come up with solutions to address internet speed issues. It is quite challenging for them because it involves a huge allocation and to avoid wasting money. Through this initiative, they also taught effective communication via communication technology to help rural entrepreneurs market their product. Here are some suggested solutions that might be helpful in this issue. Firstly, we should focus on the rural business market. Some people and organizations have a higher demand for rural internet access than others. Research has found that 90% of rural small business want internet access. Therefore, it makes sense to focus on the small business market first because they have a greater interest in internet access. After they build a customer base with those customers, wireless internet service providers will have an economic base to expand services to others also. Secondly, promote rural internet access for growth. It is very important because many urban areas have seen a development in economic growth. In contrast, rural areas have struggled with growth. Furthermore, there is increasing evidence that many people in rural areas are moving away to other areas to find jobs and business opportunities. If this trend continues, rural areas will be left behind. Thus, it is very important to open the opportunity with community engagement in the rural areas. Last but not least, the suggesting solution is enhancing wireless internet service quality and coverage also may be help the rural areas to have suitable internet services according to the areas. Working with government to improve funding and make internet access is very helpful. It will be help if it can provide access and extend the coverage area. That's all from me. Thank you.
Next, we will proceed with the second issue pertaining to rural development, which is lack of improvement of the infrastructure in rural areas. Media had covered many news on the struggle of rural community to reach certain places due to lack of road accessibility in some areas. In June 2020, an online news had covered on a concerned educator who is willing to cross river by a boat to ensure his students get a proper learning materials. Another point to highlight is the dreadful condition of the bridge that students in Sarawak use to go to school. This evidence shows that while Malaysia is moving towards a developed country, there are still communities having difficulties in terms of road accessibility. The unsafe roads lead to a number of accidents reported throughout the country over time, and heartbreakingly, some were fatal accidents. An investment in education means investing for the future. These quotes strongly support that children need better access to education in order to produce a better nation, and this does not exclude rural students as they have the right to get education just like urban community. Therefore, lack of improvement of the infrastructure in rural areas restrict development of some rural communities. Next, moving on to the existing solutions that government had implemented for this issue. The Ministry of Rural Development had come out with infrastructure programs including Rural Road or JALB and Village Road Program JPD. JALB was launched in 1977, which aims to accelerate and increase road constructions to provide much needed communication systems in rural areas. Meanwhile, JPD started in 1981 and aims to refine the standard of living of the people and provide communication comfort to the rural population. These roads channel the people to healthcare centers, schools, mosques, and other public facilities. Road accessibility is a major contribution to the development of rural community as it provides access for them to reach the main road that they can find public facilities. Accessibility influences trade, which helps to generate income and improve standard of living of the community. Moreover, public sector organizations involved in the initiative are Department of Orang Asli Development (JAKOWA) and Public Works Department or JKR, which aids in the development of the infrastructure to rural people. From the previous slide, we acknowledge that government had few initiatives including Rural Road and Village Road Program. The only drawback is that the PSO involved may have lack of improvement, maintenance and proper monitoring of the facilities provided, which results to one of the problem, which is poor road accessibility. Therefore, in our opinion, we can suggest two solutions for the road accessibility issue. Firstly, government should identify a focus area, which is areas that need immediate attention. This is because there are many areas that require appropriate action, but somehow it is not possible for governments to attend to each and every rural area at the same time. Instead, they should prioritize areas that requires instantaneous response. This includes rural areas with no safe accessibility to cross river. Next, maintenance of roads should be increased to enhance road accessibility. Government should monitor and upgrade rural roads that is affected by heavyweight vehicles, also the dilapidated bridges that is unsafe for users to cross. Project managers should be responsible to provide maintenance for the facilities.
So, for our last issue is on the effect of global markets to smallholders in rural areas. Recently, there were discussions for palm oil ban from both European Union and United States. EU on European Parliament is in process of voting for ban fuels made from palm oil. They claims that the cultivation of palm oil are not sustainable because of allegedly it causes the deforestation of rainforests. However, EU still did not provide any scientific research on these matters. While in US, they blocked the import of palm oil from Malaysia's biggest producer. The ban is imposed in allegation of HDV did not provide conducive working environment and abused their plantation workers. Although FGV denied the acquisition, US still in their standpoint, but also at the same time did not come out with any concrete evidence. Although the ban is yet to be finalized by those countries, it did significantly affect the livelihood of smallholders in Malaysia. This is because 40% of palm oil plantation is owned by individual farmers, where the proceeds from the plantation is their main income. Moreover, most of plantation workers are Malaysian coming from the B40 group. So when there is ban on Malaysia palm oil, it will give negative perspective to the industry at the international level. With that, the demand of palm oil will drop and consequently, the price in the global market also will decrease. At last, smallholders' source of income will shrink and plantation workers may lose their job. Next is on the existing solution by the public sector organisation. First is giving incentive to certified smallholders. This is to attract individual farmers to be certified sustainable palm oil producer under Malaysia Palm Oil Certificate Council. They will be given 50% reimbursement of preparation costs as well as 100% coverage on audit fees. The certification also provides standard for the rights of workers. Secondly, Freka Berhad and Risda has submitted a memorandum of protest on EU ban. This memorandum is important as it proves that Malaysia is strongly opposed the ban. Chief Executive of Freka also said that they will not insist to further the matters to World Trade Organization if the ban approved in the future. Last but not least is our suggested solution on the issue. We hope that government and public sector organizations will be more proactive in promoting our palm oil industry globally. They need to give more exposure of palm oil processes and products to the public so that the industry will not be affected by business allegations from developed countries. Government also can collaborate with other affected countries such as Indonesia to organize a worldwide campaign. Next is government should find new partnership for the palm oil export. They should make diplomatic agreements of trade with other developed and developing countries such as Australia, China, Korea, and Middle East countries. That's all from us. Thank you for listening.